Whether you're a football coach who noticed that one kid with brand new boots and iPhone, or the mum whose once sweet little boy has turned secretive and angry, or the dad whose heart sank when he realised a knife had gone missing from the kitchen drawer. They could all be signs your young person is being groomed by County Line's gangs to run or even sell drugs. Unexplained gifts or changes in behaviour could be signs they need your help to escape the danger. Call Crime Stoppers 100% anonymous on 0800 555 111.
Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teen accounts.
Sports Social Podcast Network, the biggest voices in sport. Let's take a look at some of the lineup. Under the cosh.
Anything you do different in management?
I'd probably get a better pitch inside, Pan.
Let's be having you.
I love the fact that he's chosen that moment to go, do you know what? Now I'm going to do it.
The England pod.
If he plays regular minutes this season for Manchester City, he will re-emerge as one of the best players that we've got.
All on Europe's biggest sport podcast network. Find your next favourite sport podcast. Search Sports Social Podcast Network and listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Verified comparison at content.sport-social.co.uk/comparison.
We're here at Manda House at WCR-FM, the fantastic Wolverhampton community radio station. A big thanks to Chris and Susan. WCR-FM really ingrained in the community, providing pathways into media for young people. And I suppose you could say we're in the media now. Mutchy and Denno, good to have you both here today.
Great to see you, Johnny.
We are on Instagram, so give us a follow on Mutchy and Denno. We're on TikTok and Facebook too. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We have also got a very special guest today as well. Former Wolves midfielder, fullback. He played everywhere for us. Tom Bennett. Tom, brilliant to see you.
How you doing, Johnny? You okay? Good to be here.
Very good. Now, we've got Mutchy to thank for this, haven't we, for getting Tom along today?
Well, not particularly, me and Tom have been good pals, When I heard that he was going to the game today, Wolves Villa, and he was going to do a bit of a corporate, I thought, what an opportunity to get him on, because what a fella he was, what a great player. And what I will say is, I played with Tom at Stockport, and I think he really, I was finished, I was on the bench every week, but Tom was playing centre midfield with Mazza, an old Wolves centre mid.
Chris Marsden,
yeah. And I've got to say, absolutely outstanding he was, outstanding. From his days playing right back where anyone could go past him, no problem. You know what I mean? So,
except you, Andy.
But delighted to see him, what a great man.
Yeah, we'll get on to the Stockport days because there were some fantastic days and Tom was obviously a big part of arguably Stockport's greatest ever team. But coming back tonight, Tom, we're recording this, I should point out, before the Aston Villa match on Friday evening. So whatever happens, we won't be able to comment on that game. But Tom, it all began for you at Villa, didn't it?
Yeah. Left Scotland, 16-year-old, wet behind the ears. Turned up at Birmingham New Street, met by Jim Paul, who was the famous kit man and at the time for a lot of years. And that was me. Off you go. 2.5 years I spent there.
How did you end up at Wolves then?
I think it was through more luck than judgment than anything else. Villa were going through a huge transition period at the time. Graham Turner had just been sacked, and Graham Taylor had just came in as manager. Graham Turner then went to Wolves, and I think Graham Taylor at the time was looking at a lot of changes, had a lot of older players, if you will, Steve Hunts, Andy Blairs, people like that. So I just couldn't get a game in the reserves at the time other than right back, and I'd never played right back really. I sort of knew the game, but I'd never really played there. And it was Ron Dukes, the old Wolves scout, chief scout, that must have saw something. And literally as soon as I was let go from Villa, I got a call the next morning from Ron Dukes. And it's actually quite funny. He spent 10 minutes on the phone talking to me before I had to say this. Who are you? I didn't know who he was. Robbie, this guy was talking to me. I had to sign for anybody at the time, other than go back to Scotland.
He didn't say that to you first.
He said, we were speaking.
I got the wrong number.
and he said, it's Ron Dukes from Wolves, as if I would know who it was. I'm still only 18, I'm still wet behind the ears, and I just said, yeah, I'll sign. And I had no hesitation. No clue what I was walking into, to be honest with you. But it was the start of a lovely time, a really good time.
Yeah, it was a very different club then than the one that there is today, particularly physically when you look at the ground, as is the case with so many clubs. What year was that then when you first walked through the door at Wolves?
88, yeah. So it was just the year after they won the Sherpa Van. So I think it just beat Burnley, I think it was, in the Sherpa Van. So they were just starting to pick up. But I also think, does that not when you got beat with Charlie as well? Did you get beat with Charlie?
No, we just got promoted, actually.
Andy Mutch is the only man in this room who has experience of losing to Chorley, so we tend to gloss over that whenever possible.
The only reason I say it is because I live in Chorley. That's where I live now.
Thanks.
I think it was a time that things, as Tom said, things were just starting to pick up. And Tom joined, similar to most of us, really. Wasn't getting football somewhere else, so he needed to go and play football. Young lad wanted to get started in the game and show his ability, which he obviously did, But it was a good time. It was a good time around the club. Things were picking up, being successful, and Tom became a part of it.
Funny enough, right, when Tom was mentioning Chorley, he was right. That was probably one of the worst nightmares in the football history of Wolverhampton Wanderers, I suppose. But it was an absolute nightmare for me because I just signed for Wolves, and all them lads that played for Chorley, I played against them for Southport in non-league, so I knew all these guys were. And they're thinking I'm going on to better things, and they probably saw me playing for Wolves and think, we can beat them easily. He was rubbish him, the type thing, I'm only messing it. So it was particularly embarrassing, I suppose. And I suppose that was the lowest that the club ever got. And why Tom chose to live in Chorley, I'll never know. But there you go.
That's another story. Yeah.
Well, in fairness, Tom did name check the Sherpa Van Trophy, and obviously, Tom, you're coming in. This is about episode 16 of the podcast. If there isn't 10 minutes on their 2 goals in the Sherpa Van Trophy on every single podcast, honestly.
It doesn't matter if you score at Wembley, does it, Rob?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't matter.
But
it does.
But it does, yeah.
I'm actually shocked there's not a big framed picture of Robbie in mid-air.
It's actually it's in the toilet there. You couldn't touch it, see in the toilet.
I kept saying that to Bully last night when we were doing this too. I kept saying, Bully, it doesn't matter if you score at Wembley.
Dear. You told me to mention
but it does. He was chewing
like
like
that. It was such a great time, you know what I mean? Everything was just starting to move in the right direction. The crowds were coming back as well, which they're a mad crowd down there anyway, but it was a fantastic time just to get on board, Tom.
Yeah.
So, what do you remember of Tom then walking through the door as a fresh-faced 18-year-old?
The thing I remember of Tom was
as memorable as that, Robbie, was it?
Well, my thoughts
no.
Go on.
The first thing I remember of Tom was singing "Down Where's Your Trousers" at the Christmas do. That was one of the first things. Yeah, but obviously, when Tom walked in, he obviously wasn't going to get probably first team football initially because things had settled down from the season before with being successful. It looked like the team was going to go on for the following season as well, but he obviously had ability, which he showed as time went on. Did start at right back, which I don't think really suited Tom. He'd probably tell you that he wasn't probably the quickest, Tom.
No.
I've seen Milk turn quicker. But he found his niche whenever he went into centre midfield, which he'd probably tell you about, and that's where he showed his real footballing ability, which he had plenty of.
Oh, he did, yeah. But when he walked through the door, my first impression of Tom, the door opened and he walked in, and I went, God almighty, that's the best looking bloke I've ever seen in football, right? We immediately called him Tom Cruise, not Tom Bennett, right? And he still looks like that today.
It wasn't the prettiest dressing room, really, was it? You know what I mean?
And every time Tom played, I used to say to my wife, don't you come to the game today, love, for God's sake.
Yeah, I think that was a view probably shared by supporters. All supporters on the terrace. Definitely one of the most handsome footballers ever to play for Wolves, and definitely still got it.
But you can't take the Scotland out of him, can you?
You can't.
His first song, right, is Donald, Wear Your Trousers. I'm saying, well, you can't take the Scotland out of the fucking Scottish, can you?
It was my first year, so obviously the first year you've got to get up, Christmas do, you know. And Ali Robertson was the senior pro there, and lovely man. Obviously, Ali was Scottish, and he took me under his wing, and he said, listen, Tom, you've got to do something. I said, but don't worry about it. I'll do it with you. I said, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know, Alec. What do you think? I said, well, anything you want. I said, well, what about Donald, Where's Your Trousers? We can sing that together and you do one verse and He went, brilliant. That'll be fantastic. So I spent 2 months learning every single word of that song, right? Down to the Elvis part, everything. So I get up, we're in this nightclub and it's shut down. There's just the players in there. That was it. We're a great do, and now it's time. And up I go. And Ali's done a Homer Simpson backward walk into the hedge and just disappeared. And now I'm left on my own. And well, you got 2 ways to go here. You sit back down or you just get on with it. And I got on with it. And well, I done okay.
The rest is history.
Yeah. Brilliant. So obviously Ali, as a fellow Scot, took you under his wing to some degree. Any of the other players make an early impression, make you feel at home?
I think when you're that age, you're pretty much focused on yourself. But there was 2 or 3. There was Robert Kelly. There was Keith Downing. Robbie was there. Andy was sort of a little bit older, I'd say, and probably more focused on other things. So there was probably those 2 or 3 that sort of would hang about together after training. And I sort of just ended up going with them. But there was no one, if I'm honest, my age. Everyone was either at my age were sort of youth team players, or that was it. So the next stage was maybe 3 or 4 years older than me and starting to get girlfriends and families and stuff like that. So it was more making sure that I was with 1 or 2 others and we'll have a few beers and a few drinks and having a laugh after games and stuff. But I wouldn't say there was anybody that I was probably more in awe of where I was in the situation that you were in, because you're just trying to find your way, you know. And if I'm honest with you, I was in a dressing room where it was very positive. There was a lot of positivity in the dressing room. There wasn't any negativity, and that gave you that focus as well.
Absolutely, because it could go either way, couldn't it? It could be quite intimidating to come into a team that's just winning all the time and winning, and then finding the next level, which was the second division, the old second division as it once then. But, Mutchy there, he says that there was so much positivity amongst you all.
Well, he's bang on. I was only saying, I talked to Robbie about this, saying the team we had, or the squad we had, whichever way you look at it, right? You know, at football clubs, there's little corners and there's little cliques here, there and everywhere. In our changing room, there wasn't one player that we could honestly say, he's a wrong in him and he's not at it or he's not this. Everybody got on with everyone. Don't get me wrong, we all had different personalities. And I remember rooming with Tom in Gibraltar, and as Tom said, I was a bit older than him, he was a young lad, right? So we roomed together, and Tom actually admitted to me, which he might allude to now, that he felt a bit intimidated when we were going to room together. I says, but I just talked to him like anybody else, and we talked, and he asked me loads of things, I spoke to him about things, and then he suddenly said to me, one day he said, he says, you're a cracking lad, you aren't you, type thing. And that's true, because
Is he just making this up?
It's what, I know, but it's what you perceive of what the real thing is, right? And that was true though, wasn't it, Tom? Right? Yeah. And you enjoyed it, and I give him a bit of advice on his contract, but don't tell the club that, because I used to try and help a few of the lads, you know what I mean? Anymore. I used to help a few of the lads, you know. But that was true though, Tom, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't about money. We were very lucky. I think I was very lucky. Right time, right place. I do remember. I mean, this is funny, and I'm sure Matt won't mind me saying it. They're like on Matt Foreman.
Yeah.
We used to call him Wolfie.
Remember?
Yeah.
And I came in. I'd only been in the building maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and before training he was sitting in a cardboard box, rocking in a cardboard box, and I'm going, what's going on? It's his warm up, Tom. It's his warm up, and I'm going, what is something? We talk about Roggers. A lovely boy, and a really nice fella, but it was just different. He was
on a different planet.
It was a different planet.
Yeah.
They were just characters.
Great characters.
You know, everybody like Kendo and people like that, and David Barnes, whenever he was there, and they see Jackie Gallagher, Holmesy. Yeah. Everybody had their own little character and their little viewpoint and everything. You know what I mean? And I think because there was hardly anyone who really made themselves in the game. I think Ollie Robb had a bit of a name in the game, and that was about it, really.
He was the only one.
So all of us were trying to get on the ladder, play games, and try to be successful. And I think as a group, no one felt above anybody else, and that's the way it was, and that's the way it remained for a number of years.
No complications, was it? That's the truth.
Yeah.
We all turned up, we all had a laugh, we all trained, we all knew what we were like personality wise, you know. We all liked to have a couple of beers and have the crack together, but the real truth was, you weren't looking over your shoulder going, he's talking about me or he's saying this, and you know, whatever anyone says, that goes on a lot at clubs. You know, maybe not so much now. They're a different personality now altogether. You know, we were talking about the coach driver we saw before, who's picking the lads up for a pre-match today, and he says the lads say nothing to me, just get on the coach. Our coach driver, we absolutely caned him. Get your foot down. When he's reversing, we're banging on the thing as if he's hit something. We wound him up like mad, and we just had a laugh, and that's what it was. And that was the personality of us all, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, but also it helps when you're winning games of football, doesn't it?
Of course,
you know, because then you don't get the backbiting that actually be in the team. If you're going out and winning and being successful and winning games of football, then that's a massive.
Right, because we lost games. Don't get me wrong. When we won the leagues and that, we played Chester at home once and we lost, and Chester were really poor, and we were going to batter them, right, allegedly, and we big crowd there, and we got beat, and we all come off shocked. We lost against Torquay when we could have gone to Wembley again. We should have, right? So we did lose games of football,
of course, yeah,
right, which we did well. But I strongly believe the personality of the players and the way they conducted themselves as a squad, right, was the reason why. You've got to have ability, don't get me wrong, and you know, but you know, and you lose games, and you have to take that on the chin. You know what I mean? If you don't lose, you don't learn, I suppose, right? But for me, the character of the players was key to the success, and maybe actually Graham Turner, when he signed these lads, he might have been doing a bit more homework than we actually thought, so to get the right personalities in. I remember Dave Jones went to he signed a centre forward from Coventry. What was his name, Johnny?
For Wolves, was it Roussel, Cedric Roussel?
That was him, yeah. And he thought he was a cracking player, as it happens, right? But when he came to Wolves, he didn't do a tap, right? And they found out that things were going on in his family life.
Yeah, he had some issues,
which were destroying him. You know what I mean? So you never really know. But Graham seemed to bring in the personalities at the club, right, which wanted hunger and had the right attitude.
I think sometimes as well it's finances, and you have to rely on your recruitment to be able to bring in players, whether it be young players or experienced players or some players that are just not firing at another club but see a potential in them. And I think that's the beauty of recruitment. It's hugely important. Even today, the money that's a flush in the Premier League almost allows mistakes. So, so you're going to pay 20 million, 30 million, which is ridiculous amounts of money, but you're paying that for an average player, almost just to fill in a squad. The problem comes when you're having to pay 80 million quid for a player that's unproven in the Premier League, that a lot of clubs then get found out. And I think back in the day, when there wasn't the money in there, you had to be bob on with what you were trying to bring in, and you need to bring in the right level of character into the building, and then sometimes you chuck that into the pot, and the mix of luck as well comes into it, and before you know it, you've got a team that are really successful, back-to-back promotions, and obviously Andy and Steve up front. We'll be doing a little bit maybe on that. But no, what I would say, and we talk about this previously before we came in here today, and even now people say talk about players, and everybody knows Steve Beale, and everybody knows Andy Mutch to a lesser degree, but they do. But Robbie, the crosses that Robbie were doing, and little things, and he talks about I had no pace, and that's fine, no problem with that when you're playing midfield. But as a winger, to have no pace,
that's a big problem, isn't it?
It is a problem.
John Robertson.
But he was very much like, and listen, he was very much like John Robertson. Didn't get the credit. He'll get the credit in amongst Wolves fans that knew and watched football at that time. But he used to go past players and go, how's he done that? How's he done that? And then the cross would come in, and so there was a lot of good, positive, technically gifted players in that side without being paid big silly money, because that wasn't in the...
Yeah.
Tony, there was the lads who could create a little bit, but also you had your Keiths and people like that who, whenever we had to dig in, we dug in. So it was there's a real good mix of lads.
That was the club itself though, Rob, wasn't it? Because ultimately, right, once I was talking to John that when Jack Harris and Dick Omden came in and sort of settled the ship financially when they'd been in all sorts of trouble, Sir Jack Hayward got so much praise for his for what he did at the club, which was absolutely amazing. You couldn't say anything about him that wasn't brilliant, right? But Dick Omden and Jack Harris, they put the money into the club, but the advantage the gaffer had then was, like you said, where players were better than the level. He was going to get players to bring him into the club where they were easy to get in because it was Wolverhampton Wanderers and people wanted to play for them. So if they're going to get £800 a week at QPR, they'd get £800 a week at Wolves, they'd come and sign for Wolves. And that's what happened. And we even had the likes of... Mick Gooding was an absolutely amazing player for me. Ironically, he came into the club, he was at Peterborough and was unbelievable. I watched him at West Brom one day and I thought, what a player he is. And we were signing him the next week. And I went, wow, can't wait for him to come in, right? He didn't quite settle, Mick. It's amazing, isn't it? Like you were saying, Tom, where There's no guarantees. He didn't quite settle. But in the main, because the club was the club, Wolverhampton Wanderers, anyone that the manager went in for, invariably he got.
I think with Mick, he played him mostly in the right hand side, didn't he?
Yeah,
Mick, whenever he went to Reading and all afterwards, he was playing more in the middle, and it suited him in the middle because he had an engine.
What a player!
Absolutely, he could run for Scotland if he wanted to.
But remember when we used to go out and have a pint with him, he had the pints of Guinness, right?
Yeah.
And he had the teeth, the false teeth he could pull out at the front, right?
Yeah.
So he'd buy the pints of Guinness, right? And then all of a sudden, when you're not looking, he'd throw his teeth in your Guinness, right? And you're drinking his pint of Guinness, and as you get to the bottom, you suddenly got Mick Goodin's teeth. And you like, he was a character, wasn't he?
That happens a few times.
He became a estate agent, you know.
I know down Reading way, yeah.
Down Reading way, yeah.
I see him sometimes. He does punditry on the Reading home games. I see him in the press box.
But he also used to come in some mornings and he'd shout it across to me, "Hey, Denno, come here. Tom's got another trick." So Tom had to show his next trick. Right? Do you remember that? Mick used to, and you would keep the ball up twice or something like that, and then that was your next trick. Do you not remember that?
I can't remember.
Mick used to do it nearly every morning. He said, "Hey, Tom's got another trick. Denno, Tom's got another trick."
Basically, that was
Mick
Mick saying
flick it up
my lack of ability. That was it. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because obviously they're talking about players settling at different places and where you find yourself. And you probably did end up at Stockport playing under a coaching system and a playing style that was more suited to you. I always thought you'd be great in the modern game because possession was king for you. Yeah. You're a really, really tidy footballer. You never gave the ball away. But coming into a team like Wolves, which was a bit more direct, on pitches that were a bit groggier. I mean, today's pitches are amazing. Was that a struggle sometimes to find a place in the team and find your way?
Wolves, for me, it was no, is the answer, because I felt once I moved into midfield at Wolves and I had a really good season in my head anyway, I had a really good season, thoroughly enjoyed playing in that, but still not the main player, still just a feeder player, if you will, but I had a really good season. But I got injured, I done my ACL, I didn't play then for probably a good 12 months, and then you've got another 6 to 8 months just sort of getting yourself back into it. By that time it had changed. Graham Taylor had came in and I needed a little bit more time, and I didn't want to leave Wolves. There was no way anybody could have told me to leave. I didn't want to leave, but I was pretty much given the ultimatum that if you stay, you're just going to be a squad player. So when a manager says that to you, you go, right, okay, I need to find someplace else. And if I'm honest, I jumped at the first club that came in, not because I just wanted to get away from Wolves, but because Dave Jones, when he eventually, obviously, as a lot of Wolves fans know, he took Wolves back into the Premier League. But Dave sold Stockport to me. As daft as that sounds, you're leaving Wolves, you're going to Stockport, you're always coming down. But the pitch was immaculate. They were on the up. They'd just sold 2 or 3 players and for good money. He was telling me what he was trying to achieve and what he was trying to do. And the second year I was at Stockport is, without doubt, the best year of football I've ever experienced. And that was due to Dave Jones coming in, not dictating anything in terms of technical knowledge. It was more bringing in players a round peg, round hole, 4-4-2, which he did at Wolves. And if you look at Wolves, when he was at Wolves, he did 4-4-2, just with better players, if that makes sense. Again, it was about recruitment, bringing in the right players. He brought in Chrissy Marsden, who couldn't get a game at Wolves either. And all these players were just not quite figuring in. And then he puts in 1 or 2 young lads, Alan Armstrong, who went on to play for Middlesbrough. Brett Angel, experience, wasn't quite getting it, came in from Sunderland. So all these little mix went together, and Andy came in as well. And as he says, toward the back end of his career, just for laughs, really. You know, Andy wasn't really going to.
I didn't get a kick. It drove me mad, honestly. It did. Johnny, honestly, right, Alan Armstrong, right, was brilliant. And what Tom was alluding to there was what Dave did, and he did it exactly at Wolves, right? He just goes for experience. People have got knowledge of the game and I've done a little bit, you know what I mean? So the whole team was flooded with experience, right? The only young lad, really, for me, was Alan Armstrong. Blonde lad, centre forward, right? Could run for fun, get on the coach, go to sleep all the way there, wake up, play the game, go back to sleep. That's what he was like, wasn't he? And he ended up being a manager, didn't he? Amazingly, in non-league. You'd never believe he'd be a manager. However, They sold
he had
him.
4 kids by the age of 21 now.
He did, yeah.
Brilliant.
He had kids all over the place, right?
Honestly, sleeping on the coach there.
Do you know what I mean? I think he was getting up and doing the bottle and all that, wasn't he? Right. So, but he was good, and he actually went for $750,000, right, to Middlesbrough, right, and it was bang on. And I was sitting on the bench, right. I did play quite a few games, you know, for Stockport, to be honest. But near the end of it, all right, it was doing me head in. I'm watching him play, and I'm thinking, it's all over. That lad is running everywhere. He's really good. I can't run anymore. I've got to stop playing. You know what I mean? And that's what I did. But luckily, like the lads, I finished playing at 34 and a half, 35 nearly. You know, and I think yourself, Tom.
36, yeah.
36.
Denno 36, right? The three of us sitting here are very lucky because there's so many lads that play football, right? The average distance for footballers is 6 years. Do you know that? 6 years is the average for a footballer across the board of people that go into it professionally and end up falling out of it and all that, right? So, and you remember the Ryan Giggs and the Strachans of this world who played beyond their age, yeah. But there's only a handful of them that you can actually remember. So if I said you name 10 players that played till they were 38 years of age, you'd find that hard to do. So we were lucky in that respect. But
the pitches as well, though. I think you'll find it will start being a little bit better now with the pitches being better. And, well, it's a non-contact sport now, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Tom, they don't drink either, do they?
They don't drink.
Because I remember we used to go to Lilleshall.
How dare they?
Hey,
what's all that about?
When we went to Lilleshall, right, we were injured, right? They had all the England coaches there coaching all these young lads, right? And we all used to laugh and go, yeah, they're going on saying, do this, do that, do the other, right? But what they don't get, these coaches, is that them lads, in a couple of years, when they're growing up a little bit more, they'll find the ale and they'll find the birds, and then they won't be half the player they thought they were going to be. And that's how it rolled, didn't it? Yeah. You know, so, you know, you get through the net and you do what you do. But Tom was absolutely, I can't say it anymore, I used to sit on the bench more often than not.
At Stockport?
At Stockport. And I watched him play and I went, wow. Because I remember, I thought his career was over because he broke his leg at Birmingham and it was horrendous.
Playing for Stockport at Birmingham.
Yeah. It was horrendous. And I went, and I wasn't at Stockport then, by the way. And I went, oh my God, he's finished. That was the most horrendous tackle you've seen. But he came back from it. When I watched him play, he was honestly like a Rolls Royce. And I never saw that at Wolves because he was not...
I wasn't there, I was too young.
When he played in midfield at Wolves, I'd left the club by then. But when he played right back, I thought, well, Tom is a real good lad. He's got good technical ability. He's not quite got a lot of pace. And really, he can't be playing at right back. He needs to be midfield. But when was he going to get that opportunity? He didn't really, like you said.
Half a season. But that season you talk about, I think I started it right back then. I went to centre half. And I went to centre half as a story. I was playing Paul Butchy's testimonial at Villa Park. And I'm on the bench.
Remember that goal I scored that day?
I don't, Andy.
Brilliant top goal. 3-2 we won.
and we got to the bench. And Nicky Clark was a centre half, was on the bench with me, and I was a defender as well, kind of thing. And there was about 10 minutes to go, and Big Cyril Regis was playing for Villa at the time up front, and Shane Wesley, 6'4", big lad, playing centre half for Wolves, and Big Shane's gone up for a header with Cyril. He's given me elbow, he's threw him off balance, he's done his cruciate. Or he's injured his knee at the time, and that's what we thought. So off he comes. So we're all warming up, but Nicky Clark's the centre half, and the gaffer turns, Graham Turner turns and says, Tom, get yourself. And I went, what? Genuinely. What? And again, I'm 18, maybe just turned 19, and I'm going, well, and I'm looking at Nicky as if to say, I don't know what was going. Anyway, on I go, last 10 minutes, and I started the season at centre half. Half, yeah, and I played a few games at centre half. Then I went into midfield, and maybe someone else was injured. So I ended up getting more of a versatile type tag, if you will.
Yeah, I remember that. That's what I remember as a supporter, that sort of versatility.
It's brilliant, that, Tom. It's like he played right back, centre half. He went in nets once. He went everywhere. He went everywhere to work out where his best position was. And in the end, he went, I think he might be a centre midfielder, you know.
We'll get onto the goalkeeping shortly. From a fan's perspective, I always remember the frustration at the likes of Paul Cook, Chris Marsden and yourself moving on. The club spending big money on players like Mark Atkins and Steve Corica, and they just didn't do it. And I was thinking, we had better technicians, we had players that they either deserve a long shot in a team. And I know Cookie probably had a decent run at it, and the style of football did not suit Graham Taylor whatsoever. But it did rankle with me that watching from a fan's perspective, talented technicians moving on and not being replaced with anything more, while all the time spending a load of money?
There was quite a bit of tinkering done with the side at Graham Turner's time, at the end of his time, whenever Mutchy moved on, but I didn't feel as if it really needed tinkered with as much. Because there's 3 or 4 players, and they were good players.
It needed something, didn't it? Because we were never quite there.
Yeah, but you had like Dave Kelly come in, I think Kevin Keane come in,
Jeff Thomas.
So there's a few.
Yeah, they came in that one summer.
All of a sudden, myself, Mutchy, Tom, I think it was Keith, who were basically the heart of the team at that moment in time, were pushed to the side. So I think there was too much of an overhaul at that point. A little bit of tinkering to be done then, and then adding to it as you go along, I think would have been a better route to go down. It's history now, but at that time, and then you would have been able to feed people in, and you would have probably kept your cookies, you would have kept your Toms, because I think
Chris
yourself, Cookie, Graham Taylor moved them on, really.
Yeah, but even, I mean, you're talking about sort of drip feeding players into a team. A new manager comes in. I genuinely think that's the worst thing you can do, putting 5, 6, 7, 8 changes, unless it's forced on them. 1 or 2, absolutely, because you've still got the nucleus of a good side. Unless the side's been relegated and they're really struggling, but we were a probably top 5, top 6 side in the Championship. So it was 2 or 3 players needed. But when the new manager comes in, he wants to change because he's got more money. He's got an injection of cash. He wants to spend it. It's not his team. I mean, if you look at the modern day now, Arne Slot is having the season this season that he probably should have had last season.
Yeah,
last season didn't change anything. Didn't bring anybody in. Well, I think Chiesa was for nothing.
Yeah.
So that was literally it, crack on. This season, he's been forced into 5, 6 changes. Alexander-Arnold going, 1 or 2 others going. Salah's been off form. And before you know it, Liverpool are having the season they probably should have had last season.
But the interesting thing there, Tom, is you bang on. You need a plan, right? Know where you're going and why you're doing what you're doing. There's always a reason for anything anyone does, right? So when you look at Liverpool with Slot, right, he went to the sweet shop, right, and he bought loads of sweets, right, and he doesn't know which sweet to eat, right? Honestly, so he's brought all these top players in, right? And there's not one player he's signed that's poor, right? No. 100%, right? Yeah. Not poor. But they're all much of the same. So he never had any thought, in my opinion, of the balance of the team to say, right, we've got these type of players, we need that and that to actually balance it, right? And it was a little bit like Wolves, what we were talking about, when that change came in, when all the lads come in and they started having a bit of money, and as you said, Tom, start spending the money, where they just see names and see players and they think that's the answer, and it's not the answer. You've got to see where the balance of the team is, what you actually do need, right?
Balance is important. Yeah.
And that's what we did.
Well, that balance was a really interesting point, because you could argue over 3 consecutive years under 3 managers, Wolves went about their recruitment the wrong way. Graham Turner initially had the big influx of cash where he brought those players in that we were talking about. Then Graham Taylor comes in, completely changes what he wants. There's Tony Daly, Steve Froggatt, Don Goodman, Neil Emblin, all these players, Jermaine Wright. Then after you'd gone, it happened again with Mark McGee. Mark McGee was given a ton of cash. Steve Corica, Simon Osborne, loads of other different players. And it was almost... I don't think that would be allowed. I mean, you still work in the modern game, and we'll come on to that shortly, Tom, but I don't think that would be allowed in today's game for a manager just to carte blanche go out and change a team like that because of the damage it might do long term.
There's a lot more intelligence and thought going into the game now, and there's a lot more.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a lot more money in the game now. So when you're spending someone's money, it better be the right way to spend it. And I think it's becoming more of, and it has been certainly over the last 20 years. It's a business first, and so if I'm giving you 100 million, 50 million, 20 million, whatever it might be, depending on the level, then there's more scrutiny on why you're doing it, when you're doing it, who's going to replace such and such, and are we getting any money in recruitment? So it's not just a case of, well, get rid of them, keep them on the wage bill, but we're not going to play them in the reserves or whatever. There's a lot more thought going into it now, so it's not as easy now to do that.
Yeah, but what you said there, Johnny, right, with all the managers that came in and all spent money, they all did it. They all did it at Wolves. Did exactly the same thing. There was no change. The only difference was when Dave Jones won the league and got us into the Premier League, right? It's because Dave Jones went right back to what he's about, was experience. And he brought experience after experience after experience, paying it at a cost, but he got real experience, right? And that got the club up. But after that, right, that's when it becomes a problem, because them experienced lads aren't really good enough now for the next level, right? And then it's your skills to actually sort that out.
But I think managers have to be given time, don't they?
Absolutely.
Because I think the Graham Taylor time, and I've said it loads of times, really, if he'd have been given the same amount of time as Mark McGee got in his tenure, then he only was given 18 months.
That's
he
right.
came off the back of the England thing. So once he hit the wall a little bit, the first time the fans got on his back, and ultimately he got the sack. But he had a squad then that if he'd been given 3 years with that squad then, I would 100% sure that they'd have been in the Premiership. Because of how he went about it, how he worked, had a load of injuries in those 18 months coming up to the playoffs. And losing in the playoffs to Bolton, which was as close as we got to getting promoted. If they're allowed to bring a few players in, then 18 months isn't really a long enough time to change it. So if Graham Taylor hadn't been given the time in the Premier League, they would have been in the Premier League.
Yeah, stop banging your hand on the desk. It's a
trying to make a point, Johnny.
It's a nice.
Trying to be forceful.
Telling you, make sure that you all clean your teeth and have your apples.
Lads, honestly, that's another 20 minutes before I get to bed. You don't know how hard it is to edit all those little bangs out of this podcast. We're going to finish up for the first part of this chat with Tom with one of the most colourful episodes of your time at Wolves, and that was going in goal in the Black Country Derby. Just tell us your memories of ending up in goal for Wolves.
Yeah, I'm sure I heard there was a story on a previous one of your podcasts, and someone sent it to me, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, well, that's not right, and that's not right, well, that's sort of right. And so from my perspective, because everybody sees it from a different perspective, you know, Andy will see it from one end of the pitch and out. So basically, Mickey Stowe, in my recollection of this story, it was 2 or 3 minutes into the second half, and he goes up, takes a corner, and comes down and breaks his ankle. And back in those days, you got 3 subs, and we're not putting a goalkeeper on the sub because goalkeepers don't get injured. So who's going to go in goals? And we've talked about this. Well, nobody wanted to go in goals. And in my head, I'm going, well, I'm not really playing very well. I'll hide, thinking this is an easy out for me, and I'll go and play in goals. So Robbie, in fairness, the gaffer says warm up. Nobody else put their hand up. So I'm now putting the gloves on, and Robbie's warming, and it's pouring down with rain. And he starts just sort of half volleying into me, and I'm dropping everything. I do remember that. I'm thinking, this ain't going to work. This. You know. And he's trying to put them to the side. You know, he's trying to say, they need to dive, and I'm going, no, just put them to hands here. So basically, a 2 or 3 minute warm up. Robbie's gone, no, he's fine, Gaffer. He's ready to go. So. And I remember the first time the ball went down the wing, West Brom's got it, and I'm going, well, I've got to go near post. That's where goalkeepers stand, near post. And the ball got crossed in, but it was not a great cross because I'm there and I've got it. And the ball stuck like glue to my hands because of the gloves. They must be the way they've done, neoprene or whatever they've got in these gloves. And now I've got a little bit of confidence now. So that's my first recollection. By the end of it, because of the wind against us, I couldn't kick the ball past the 18-yard box. I swear to God. And I'm asking the centre halves to come back, going, take it off me. And I'm dribbling out with it, so I'm catching it and dribbling out because I'm rolling the ball, trying to get 5, 10, 15 yards up the pitch. And obviously Graham Turner wants me to launch this ball up to Bully and Mutchy, and I'm not even getting into the halfway line. It was honestly. So that's my recollection of it. And I've still got a picture in my house, Robert. It's not me scoring one in the top corner, but it's one me sitting picking up a ball to the goal kick.
It was fantastic. Wolves fans will forever be grateful for what you did that day, because we didn't lose the game, did we? We did not lose the game.
Drew 2 each, Johnny. Only let one in.
Yeah.
Tommy, but it was like I was looking at you in nets with these big gloves on. We've actually touched on this before, and you had these big gloves on. It was pissing down with rain. You're sodden. You look like a 10-year-old who's been saying, you go in next because we've got no one else. And you were standing there in these big gloves. Kenny Everett on it. Yeah. And I was looking at it thinking, really?
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Mickey Styles' top didn't fit you, did it?
No.
I mean,
all his gloves.
You could have got 2 of you in.
Character building, that, Johnny. Character building.
Brilliant.
You don't see that. You know.
Well, as you said, you only let one in, and we were no worse off when we ended the game than we were when you started in goal. Yeah. So I hope the lads were buying you pints that night, or at least very grateful. Can you remember the reaction you got from your teammate?
Do you know, I honestly think if it had stayed right back, we'd have lost. So
bang on, Robbie, lad.
So we didn't have to buy him anything, Johnny.
I thought his hands were cold, me, when he put the gloves on. I thought it was nothing to do with being the keeper.
Oh dear. Good days. But Andy, just briefly, sorry, Andy was talking about the memories that you have of those days and what it was about, and And that's what we'll all have, just memories. You know, that's what we'll all be. No matter what we do, that's what we are. We're just going to be an accumulation of memories. And those memories in that day will stay with me forever. And everybody will have a different perception of it. But such a good time. Such a great time, you know.
And the fact that it was a derby game as well.
Yeah.
I think that all adds to it, doesn't it?
It does,
We're going to end that part of the chat there. Once again, a massive thanks to Tom Bennett for joining us. We've got lots more with Tom in the next episode. And a huge thanks to Chris and Susan at WCRFM here at Manda House, providing pathways for young people hoping to get into the media. They do incredible work in the community. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Mutchy and Denno. We're also on TikTok and Facebook too. And if you like and subscribe to the podcast, you won't miss a single episode.
Find the biggest voices in sports on the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Like the late-breaking F1 podcast hosted by Ben Hocking, Harry Eade and Sam Sage.
We cover every race, all the biggest topics in between. It's unfiltered F1 chat with the genuine insight you only get from 3 long-time best friends.
Search Late-Breaking F1 podcast and listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Sports Social Podcast Network.